The paperwork was sitting on the kitchen counter when Delia found out she had been wrong about everything. It had been a difficult 2 weeks in the Marchetti household. Remy, their 4-year-old black Labrador, had begun exhibiting behavior that nobody in the family could explain or rationalize. It had started gradually, a heightened interest in the baby's lower body during diaper changes that had initially seemed like normal dog curiosity. Delia had redirected. Her husband, Philip, had redirected. By day 4, it had escalated from interest to something that felt, in the language of every dog behavior article Delia had found on her phone at midnight, like resource guarding around the infant. By day 8, it had become lunging, controlled, not aggressive, no teeth, no sound, but directed and impossible to stop, always at the same location on the baby's body, always during the same caregiving moments. Philip's mother said the dog had turned. Philip's mother had been saying the dog was dangerous since the baby arrived and felt the current events were vindication. Philip himself was exhausted and frightened in the specific way new fathers become frightened when they feel they have made a mistake that cannot be fixed. Delia was the holdout. But she was also standing in the kitchen at 11 at night with rescue paperwork in front of her and no other explanation. She took Remy to the vet the next morning, not for an aggression evaluation. She had scheduled that for Thursday with a behaviorist. She took him because she had realized sometime around 3 in the morning that she had not had him examined since the baby arrived, and that a dog who suddenly changes behavior has often suddenly changed for a reason. The vet, Dr. Nakamura, did the standard physical. She examined Remy's abdomen. She pressed. She looked at Delia and said, "How old is your baby?" Delia said, 6 weeks. Dr. Nakamura said, "Has anyone checked the baby for a hernia?" If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you're in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. She explained it carefully. Inguinal hernias in newborns are not always immediately visible and are not always caught in initial examinations. They can present as soft bulges in the groin area that appear and disappear. They are not always painful in early stages. They can become dangerous if the tissue strangulates, which is when they move from a monitoring situation to an emergency. Dogs with their extraordinary scent capability have been documented to respond to medical anomalies in ways that are not yet fully understood. The behavior Delia was describing, targeted, persistent, location-specific attention, was not in her clinical experience consistent with aggression. It was consistent with a dog responding to something at that site. Delia called the pediatrician from the parking lot. The pediatrician saw the baby that afternoon. There was a small inguinal hernia left side that had not been identified at the initial newborn examination. It was currently reducible, not an emergency, but something requiring monitoring and likely surgical repair at an appropriate age. The pediatrician said, "Good that you caught it now. Good that someone was paying attention. Has your pet ever done something that made no sense until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard." Delia drove home and put the rescue paperwork in the recycling bin without saying anything to Philip until after dinner, when the baby was down and it was quiet. She told him the whole thing. Philip was quiet for a long time. Then he went to the living room, where Remy was on his bed, and sat on the floor next to him. He did not say anything. He just sat there. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. The hernia was surgically repaired at 4 months. Remy's behavior returned to baseline the week after the surgery. Not gradually. The week after, as though whatever signal had been there had stopped. Delia keeps the rescue paperwork, not in the recycling bin. She keeps it in a folder. Sometimes she takes it out and looks at it and thinks about Thursday, the behaviorist appointment, what might have been decided there. The next story involves a small dog who alerted to something in the walls of a family's new home before the first piece of furniture was moved in.